Welcome to another episode of Resortera Wave, the Hector Moreno show. This is how we're going to call it today. One of those things one of the stories I would say that has been sort of successful in Mexico football since 2005. His career, how he sort of started it all. So today, I have Oscar with me again. Oscar is actually, you're the one that brought this one up. You're the one that brought this topic up a little bit in the sense of like, let's talk about Hector Moreno
Hmm.
and just a little bit of what he's done with the national team, you know, since 2005.
Yeah,
It sounds close, but it's not that close anymore. It's way
we're
way back then.
we're getting old, Nabe. I remember
Bas-
that. I remember that perfectly. To be honest, that's one of my first um, Mexican football memories. I'm being honest with you. It's that, and then the 2006 World Cup for me.
Yeah, yeah. And so right here, there's Moreno on that team. That
Mm,
team, no, the one that beat Brazil over there in that World Cup in Peru. Um, and it's a team that has left pretty good players, no, in general. The one that is cut
I
out is
think so.
Efrain Juarez, no, that Efra is already coaching a successful run with the New York City FC.
Can you
Um,
zoom it out a little bit, Nabe? I think people are getting cut off with Vela.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the thing. I mean, the picture. I got it like that.
Oh, okay.
Because
My
that's
bad.
my fault, bro. That's my fault. But
No, no, that's
because
fine.
we're talking about Moreno. So Moreno's not cut. So that's the one the one that we
Perfect.
the one and then Pataraujo, I've actually talked with quite a few in this picture.
Oh, really?
I already talked with Hector, Pataraujo, who else did I Cesar Villaluz already interviewed him, Aldrete, um Gio, just one question, but I asked a question to him. And then
All
Vela
right,
as
now I gotta
well.
ask you, Naeem, what stood out? Is there anything particular from these guys who came from that generation? Is there anything that stood out to you? Any response that you think stood out from that generation specifically from all those guys?
I think with Hector, there was a lot of maturity because when I asked Hector a question after a Madrid game in 2014, there was a whole talk about Vela. If Vela was gonna play for the
Mm,
national team.
yeah,
And I told him, you spend this a lot of time with Vela, with winning the U17 World Cup and all that stuff. So my question was, do you think Vela will return to the national team? And I think Hector answered it pretty well in terms of like, he's already mature, he knows what he has to do, it's his personal decision. So there was a lot of intelligent aspects to his answer, no, very mature. At the time, he was playing for Espanyol, and I think he was one of the main players for
yeah,
Espanyol, and
he was.
coached by El Vasco Aguirre.
Mm.
But there was a lot of leadership in him, no, and I think that's one of the things that stood out. With the rest, they all have, I think, because I also already talked with the coach Chucho Ramirez, and
There you
so
go.
they
So
all
many
they
insights here. We gotta do a whole episode 2005 now,
yeah, because that
specifically.
team, in my opinion, is we've talked in this podcast before, the special of 2012, no, about Tena and the Oro Olímpico. But in my opinion, this is the team that first ingrained that idea that Mexico can win stuff, no, and it was Chucho who sort of promulgated this idea that Mexico can beat any team in the world, and this team did it. I mean, before beating Brazil, they whooped the Netherlands, you know. So it's one of those stories where,
They did well that entire tournament. They
yeah, no, they
rolled over
even
all the good ones.
it was spectacular,
Uruguay
when you look
también.
back at it, and but in general sense, this generation, there's a lot of stories about Gio and where he is now. The critique of Vela, why he accepted at LAFC so young when he could potentially still be in Europe, playing at a high level. It's a very sophisticated team, with a lot of good soccer IQ, I'd say. And the soccer IQ that that Chucho ingrained in these players from a young age, I think is still seen. Like many of these players went on to play, big, a long-term career, no?
Big
The
roles on the national team too.
And Aldrete might not be a staple in a national team, but he's been
But he
on
had a
them
good career. He's had a good
forever.
career. Mm-hmm.
Pata Araujo maybe not so special in Omar Esparza, but Araujo, there was a period of time where he was still, considered. I mean, I think he just got lost out of the
Yeah, I
a
think he
little
just
bit
got
of,
lost in the system.
but Moreno
Efraín
has been
también.
impeccable, and Moreno's entering, what is this World Cup 2010 to the fourth
Fourth.
World Cup. So it is one of those stories of success in Mexican football because he's been all over the place. I mean, he's been in Italy, Netherlands, Spain. He went to Qatar, which I think that's something that, and then he was able to come back to Mexico and still play at a high level.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. To me, he's one of those players that he quote unquote did everything right. I mean, I think one of the positives that he was able to get in that whole experience, like people forget too, he went to Europe right away too after that 2005 World Cup, but because Vela and Gio, I think maybe because they were attacking players, all the spotlight was on them. So like any marginal mistake, everything was highlighted big on them compared to Moreno. He kind of did everything kind of low key. Even I was looking back, since we were recovering, I went to go look back at the 2010 qualifiers. So Ericsson came, right? And then
Yeah.
Aguirre took over. I think if I'm not mistaken, Gio was already like a staple point with the national team in the qualifiers. And Moreno didn't actually get his first start until like the last game of the qualifiers where they were already qualified,
Yeah.
basically. And so that just kind of showed where like the little, like not so much pressure was on him compared to like Avel and Gio. And I think that's what they needed in a sense. They probably would have gone to another level, in my opinion, even though I still think they both had great careers. Um, Maybe not the expectations that Mexican football sometimes like to exaggerate the good and the bad
Yeah.
sometimes, but I think you just see his trajectory too. I mean, I'll point that too. I think early on he already learned English very, very early on in his age, which has helped him throughout his career as well. So he's just I think he's without a doubt. Do you think he's the best center back? Sorry, since Rafa Marquez probably.
He has to be up there. No, I think, when you talk about top center backs in the history of Mexican football, you think about Claudio Suarez and you think about Rafa Marquez. You know, Rafa, I think, is untouchable because of his Champions League run, because playing for Barcelona, what he left there. I think he's sort of untouchable. But afterwards, there was always that constant search of who can emulate him. Is it gonna be? At one point it was El Flaco Reyes. Could he be that player?
Fortunately,
There
not
was, there was, there was
to a
that
point. Yeah.
at some point. Edson Alvarez to a certain extent right now. But I think Moreno, I think his story is so unique. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
but he did fill the shoes, or he did hold a lot of responsibility in that backline for El Tri since 2010 until today. So actually right now we can share a little bit about. There's this interview that he gave. I think his name is to Roberto Martinez. So you probably watch one of his podcasts before, but he interviewed Hector Moreno. And he talked about that injury in 2014, when it was a game where they almost beat the Netherlands. No,
That was a game saving, goal saving tackle. If we're being honest, I think so, right? If I look
yeah,
back at it again,
yeah. So right now, let's see what he explains here about the injury. Um, Hector, what he says, specifically about what he felt during, being in the locker room with that injury. But I think there's a specific statement here that I think resonates really with that moment he was living.
Me acuerdo muy claro que entras al vestuario estaban las camillas de tape, para el vendaje, para el doctor antes del partido, y ahí se tiraba y empiezan a entrar todos los compañeros, todos preguntándome qué pasaba. No sé, me duele un chingo, ya prácticamente no sé, no recuerdo si llorando del dolor o quejándome un montón. Y nada, es lo que
tienes borroso de tanto que
tengo
te dolía.
borroso, sí,
Pues que sí, bueno,
tengo borroso, y por no sé, la sensación tan culera de perderme ese partido. Yo creo que, no sé si Creo que ese partido, de los 3 que me ha tocado estar de octavos de final del Mundial, era el que teníamos realmente las posibilidades de calificar y estuvimos muy cerca.
Sí, y aparte, pues, ¿tú cuántos años tenías?
Yo tenía ahí 25 años.
25 años.
25 años, entonces, y de todo, o sea, sí, obviamente el Mundial, perderme esto, me acuerdo, me preguntaste qué pasó, me llevaron a la ambulancia, me fui a un hospital, culerísimo, o sea, no, creo que estábamos en Fortaleza, viejo,
era en Brasil,
así,
¿verdad?
en Brasil.
Sí.
Decía, estaba hablando con mi ahora esposa, era mi novia Irene, me iba escribiendo por mensaje, gol de Gio, no sé qué, yo estaba entrando o ya en la resonancia, solo, no sé si fue resonancia, TAC o el estudio que me estaban haciendo.
¿Tu novia está en México?
Estaban en Brasil.
Estaban
en el partido,
Yeah.
estaban mi novia, mis papás y mis hermanos. Entonces
No,
estaba toda la familia ahí, súper, culerísimo. Y fue una sensación de, como el minuto 80 y no sé qué, me escribió 1-0, ya está por terminar, no sé qué. Creo que en el minuto 85 metieron el gol ellos. Y mi preocupación era, ¿qué voy a hacer?
Sí.
O sea, me voy a quedar aquí porque digo, ya calificamos, ya calificó México, ya ganamos. Me tengo que ir a operarme a México, ¿dónde me voy a operar? Tal. Era más mi preocupación qué hacer con el equipo, quedarme o irme. Y en ese momento que estaba pensando yo inocentemente qué haré, meten el 1-1,
no mames,
mete el 2-1, ahí cuando me dice, no, puede ser, no lo puedo creer, 2-1, se me vino el mundo encima y, tío, porque era la sensación que yo tenía de que ese equipo, entre ese rival y ese equipo, teníamos todas las posibilidades para calificar, y luego, en plano personal también, ¿sabes? Yo en ese verano pude haber tenido la posibilidad de haber salido antes de iniciar el Mundial, poder haber firmado algún otro equipo. Me quedé tranquilamente un año más en el español, pero sí la lesión me quitó la posibilidad de haber salido antes.
So there, I think, it really speaks of how that was sort of a point of inflection, no? If he doesn't fracture his tibia, one thing he believes El Tri would have won the game, because I think he provided that stability to the back line of 3. When he leaves the pitch, everything, it doesn't feel the same, because the consistency seen in the first 3 games all of a sudden dissipates. Keep in mind that Gallito Vasquez wasn't playing in that game either. So it was already a game where they were missing a vital
and I think
piece.
they put in Diego
Salcido,
Reyes, right?
Salcido, and I think Reyes.
And he was a kid too. So imagine the nerves on him.
Yeah, so imagine that in that scenario. And then I think another point that he brings up, is that idea that he was going to end up in a bigger club. After that World Cup.
Yeah, that was the big talking point. Yeah.
After that. And the coach was Louis van Gaal, a Netherlands coach. No, the Louis van Gaal was a coach, and one of his first coach in Europe for Moreno was Louis van Gaal in Acet Alkmaar, I believe. So I mean, there was that connection as well.
You think you would have took him to Man U though? I don't think so.
I don't know. I mean, if you think about it, the level, the price tag, there's a lot of what ifs. But I think
more than anything, the price tag.
The price tag wouldn't have been. Yeah, it wouldn't have been that exaggerated. But I think, that the Mexico always has those constant what ifs, no? And I think it's very special to hear it from a player. To hear him that feeling of confidence, that he feels that was the World Cup, and it certainly looked like it, especially after the first 85 minutes of that Netherlands game, and then of course everything just fell apart right away. But with the significance of that, after that World Cup, he ends up going to PSV, where I think he again regains a top level, but he returns to a league that he already knew, no? So that kind of takes a little bit of flavor to his career, no? And then we never saw Hector. Maybe Roma was his possible pick, but he didn't.
That was unfortunate.
He didn't work out.
I think if he had gone, maybe, because he went to Roma World Cup year, like 6 months or whatever, a year before the World Cup. I think he needed at least 2 years to get adapted, to know Italy, let the coach understand what he can offer. But because he was such in a rush, he just got that quick move to Sociedad. But I think it would have worked out at Roma. I think so.
Yeah. So right now on the screen, it's a little bit looking at his debut. So Hugo Sanchez gave him his senior debut in 2007.
He also debuted with all the other kids too, Vela and Gio against Guatemala, I think. if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
So I mean, look, it's right here, that Guatemala game,
Yeah,
no?
there we go. Yeah.
Let's see. We see the lineup. Let's see if it's.
Oh wow.
You see, this is what I like transfer market, because it takes you back to time. So the lineup in that game was Ochoa, Salcido, Moreno, Johnny Magallón, Pata Araujo, Omar
Wow.
Esparza, Guardado, Gonzo Pineda, Carlos Vela,
Wow. I like that front
Villaluz,
three.
Giovanni Dos Santos, and Hugo Sanchez was the coach. So imagine this match, how much, like, this was sort of a match of ¿cómo se dice? Like um, a restart, no? A reboot, no?
If I'm not mistaken, I think after this game, this is when they went to go play against Brazil here in Boston too,
It
because
could be possible.
Gio came to play in I remember him coming on the pitch.
So look, this is one number that I want people to look at: 10,000 minutes with the senior national team.
Over 100 appearances.
Yeah,
He's
over
up there in
100
top 5, right?
appearances. Yeah, he has to be top 5. I mean, at this stage, he has to. But you know, he had two main fractures: a metatarsal fracture that he suffered in the early, 2008, 2009, and then he had the tibia fracture in 2014 that he suffered in the Brazil World Cup. Here, right here, the tibia fracture. But you know, as we see, when we look at the moment El Tri's living right now, like right now, in this proceso, I'm going. Look at all the freaking games. I mean, look, in the qualification, let's say he played
He
against
played 8, I
Jamaica.
think. He played 8. I checked it up. He was injured. The games he didn't play is because he was injured.
Yeah, but that, like, the ones that I remember, he didn't play against
the U.S.
the
and
U.S.
Cincinnati.
in Cincinnati, right?
He was hurt. Remember, because it was Johan and Gata.
Yeah.
I think that's why we lost too. We had two very inexperienced guys with the national team at that level.
Yeah, one of the I think a lot of people forget that this generation also reached a quarterfinal in the 2007 U20 World Cup held in Canada.
Against
and they were
Messi's
also
Argentina.
Yeah, that Argentina was stacked, man. Let's see if we can find the lineup right
and
now.
And they barely lost too, if I'm not mistaken. I
Yeah,
think they might have lost 1-0, or they lost by a goal.
I think it might have been by a goal. But let's see. I don't think that one, because since it's youth teams, I don't think
I still remember that one too. Gio played really well in that one too. Man, the potential with that guy too.
Yeah, let's see. 2007 U20 World Cup. Basically going through the search as I'm doing this. The viewers will see all this shebang. I think I want to see that lineup, to be honest. Right now I'm intrigued.
I don't think Vela went to this, if I'm not mistaken.
He did. He
did?
Dyed his hair, I remember, at the start of the he dyed his hair like
1-0,
silver or something. Semifinals, eh?
Oh, no, it's quarter. It was quarter, no? The semifinals is the next one.
Oh, yeah. Yo me estoy perdiendo. Oh, 1-0. 1-0. Maxi Morales scored the winning goal. Maxi Morales is playing sensational in New York City FC, by the way. Shout out to Maxi.
Yeah, he destroyed the Revs in the playoffs game last.
He destroyed.
Let's not bring this up.
Inter Miami right now too, bro. He's 35.
Wow, Gata went to this.
Yes, Gata went. Gata was one of the main ones in this generation.
I don't remember those. I don't remember him.
Pablo Barrera was also important in this generation.
Wow.
Cota was part of this team.
Wow.
El Torito Silva from America. Americanistas must remember. Chepe Guerrero went to have a sensational career with Atlante. He also played for America.
El
COVID was here too, bro.
Oh my god. See, I told you, Vela's not there, or is he?
He is. Aquí está, number 9. But look, the generation, it was pretty similar. Look, like, for example, in 2005, the captain was Pata Araujo. In 2007, the captain was Pata Araujo again. Right here.
Wow.
But yeah, I mean, I think it's remarkable to see, I think the story to a certain extent, Hector Moreno's story is still tied with that not resurgence, but that idea that Mexico can win stuff, no? And I think he's been involved in many of these moments. Um, he maybe wasn't involved in the gold medal, but he's still part of the generation. He's part of that generation with
Yeah, it just shows
Chicharito,
like
Giovanni.
everyone's had a. I mean,
Yeah,
if we can break off a little bit, so Hector Moreno has been the constant and consistent player on the national team for 4 World Cups now. Granted, Gio and Vela were on and off with the national team, but they went off to have great careers. Gio was involved with the gold medal. And then Vela kind of put Mexico on the map remember when he got nominated for La Liga top 3 players.
yeah.
I think he's probably had the best club European career
Vela
since
could
Hugo.
easily have played the same number of World Cups as Moreno. Easily. If there
Yeah,
was
that's
no,
true.
if Vela wasn't
If he didn't
Vela,
want to, yeah.
you know.
I understand him though.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. I think that generation of, I mean, I don't know, people, depending who you talk to, Naib, especially if you go to the Twitterverse here and Mexican football, they'll say like they didn't live up to anything, you know.
No. You
I
can't say
think
that.
I mean, that's what you think, Naib, but I see
Yeah.
a lot of my timeline where like these guys were inflated, blah, 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 you know, they don't take their job serious or whatever. But given into the context of what Mexican football has offered the last 20 years, with that at the age of 16, 17, and they gone off to go have this career, granted, it's not the most perfect. And like I said, not the way that we sometimes exaggerate and intended to, especially the way like Avella or Gio started with Arsenal
Yeah.
and Barcelona. Pero to me, they've had really, really good careers, really great careers. Hector Moreno, I mean, just look at his silverware right there in the transfer mark. He's won the Dutch league twice or once, or twice with AZ
One with
Marca too.
AZ and one with PSV. I think he might have won it twice with PSV. I don't remember,
I
but
think
he
so
won it
too.
at least once with PSV.
He won the Community Shield, the Johan Cruyff Community Shield over there. He just won the CCL Monterrey, the Youth Championship 2005. Couple Gold Cups to his name.
Good points that you bring about his success in the Netherlands, because I was thinking about it this week when we were, when you told me that we were gonna do this show. If El Tri puts a lineup in the World Cup, the 11 players, you know, a lot of them are currently in the Eredivisie or have been in the Eredivisie, no? So, for example, if we see a lineup right now for El Tri, Hector Moreno, Jorge Sanchez in the defense. Those two are, Jorge still is in the Netherlands. Hector was there for several years. In the midfield, it could potentially be Edson, Guti, Guardado.
Yeah.
So that's 5 already.
Yeah.
And then up top, Chucky Lozano. Santi, it's possible, especially if Raul Jimenez continues to be injured. And, if Alexis Vega hadn't renewed his contract with Chivas, or if he had not gone to Chivas, let's say if Vega would have gone to Europe after Toluca, I would say that he would have played in Netherlands.
They should. I mean, it's the blueprint's right there. Go to Netherlands first.
Yeah,
it's
go to
okay.
Netherlands. That should be Mexico's main goal. It's not like, yeah, of course, go to Spain or whatever. I understand that, but I think looking at the numbers, looking at the situation, Netherlands is a way for Mexican footballers. Antuna wasn't successful in the Netherlands, but he was over there for at least a season.
Tecatito, but he's
Tecatito, but he's hurt. He could potentially be in the lineup though if he gets healthy. A miracle happens. So that's another name. So out of the 11 players El Tri will put on the field against Poland, 8, 7, even 9 could players that have been influenced by the Netherlands. And I think that is very, very important. And I think Moreno is very responsible. You think about it, you think about Carlos Salcido with PSV, you think about Guardado, but Hector left in 2007 2007, around that time.
Before the
AZ Alkmaar, which wasn't PSV, it wasn't Ajax, so it was a little bit like, where are you going? But Moreno was like, I just want to go to Europe. I don't care what team. And he had a lot of influence in all these other players that ended up going afterwards. The Edsons, the Jorge Sanchez, the Gutis, the Chukis, because he left an important or an impeccable, resume there, and it made a good impression.
Yeah, without a doubt. Um, I'm curious. What do you think his best attributes as a center back in his position? Because I
Tiene
don't
buena
think he has
salida.
that. Yeah, he's good on the ball, but I don't think he has that Rafa Marquez long ball
No,
in
no,
him.
no.
But like you said, he has a great salida. He's very comfortable on the ball. I do
Interceptions,
think.
he's good.
I think his organization. Like if you leave him alone, I don't think he's the best sometimes. But overall, I think that's probably his best bet, right? His
Yeah.
salida, his ball
And it's
control
very,
on the ball.
very rare with Moreno to get the feeling that he is
There's a mistake in
desperate
it.
or
Yeah.
anxious,
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
he's always in the
Very
zone,
comfortable on the ball. Yep. Yeah.
and
Exactly.
I think that's important in a national team to have someone that tiene la sangre fría. I think in the Confederations with Osorio, I think he scored one of the goals. I don't know if it was against Portugal or
Portugal.
something.
I think it
Might
was
have been
Portugal.
Portugal, but that type of influence of just staying calm, no, even as the thing looks bad, transmitting some calmness to the rest of the players. I think that's why he's a starter for the national team. And because a lot of people say, "Oh, he's too old," and blah blah blah, and no, no, I think, there's just not a defender right now in Mexico that gives you that guarantee. Because, for example, when you put Nestor Araujo, you see him commit so many mistakes. It's not to say that he's a terrible defender, Nestor Araujo, but he
No,
just doesn't possess that
he
in the
lacks that
zone
final
type
bit
of
more than anything.
that in the zone type of mentality, no?
Mm-hmm.
Another player that I do see that in the zone mentality, Israel Reyes from Puebla. I do sense that a little bit from him. Just
Interesting.
knowing when to be big. The Panenka that he scored against Chivas, I think that sort of describes him a little bit. No, just like, I don't care. Like, let's try it and see what happens. No, but I think that attribute is very, very important. So right now, Oscar, you've seen him more in La Liga. Um, you recently saw him in the series against Cruz Azul. What can you tell me a little bit about his situation at club level right now, heading into the World Cup?
I think when he's healthy, and thankfully he's been healthy now for more than a few matches now. Like you said, there's no one right now on the national team who's. I put him above Cesar Montes too as our overall the best center back we have at the moment. Unless if you want to slot Edson there, then Edson's our best. But given
Yeah,
the context, he's a center defensive mid. Hector Moreno is our best center back. I mean, people want to complain about his age, but people forget to when you get to a certain age, you get certain experience, and that certain experience, you you can do things and things that a young center back can do. Like for example, I think maybe physically and maybe because of his age, Johan Vasquez might be better defensively physically than Moreno right now, but
yeah.
Johan doesn't have that calmness on the ball like Moreno does. I don't think he can read the game like Moreno does, quite frankly, too. So I think Moreno is, like I said, I mean, I saw him against my Cruz Azul, and he completely that whole back line in general just shut us out. Like we couldn't break through, and then it starts with him. He's the focal point of that
Yeah,
defense.
so it says right here that he had like 29 out of 33 accurate passes. So it tells you a little bit about his salida, that confidence.
Really
Um,
good.
and look right here, basically in this lineup, from the recent one. So it's Cesar Montes, Hector Moreno, Jesus Gallardo. Having those three constantly playing, constantly training with each other, I think Gallardo he even scored a goal on top of it. Gallardo is leading the race and being the
Forget
starter.
that, Naib. He's been playing well, man. Like I don't mind, admitting when I'm wrong. Like I mean, at the end of the day, the World Cup is where it matters. But
Yeah.
He's been playing well at the club. You can't knock that off. And
Yeah, so right here you have these four basically, Cesar, Moreno, Gallardo, and Luis Romo. I think Luis Romo then he's gonna go to the World Cup because he seems like the ideal fit for a possible replacement for Edson Alvarez, no?
he's just so
Um,
versatile too. Don't forget, Luciano can play center back, defensive mid, a little higher up.
striker too, no? Right, as a striker. But yeah, I mean, I think
And Tata
here,
likes him at the end of the day
yeah,
too.
and here like his stats. I mean, 7.3, 7.5 against Mazatlan. course, we're just guiding ourselves with SofaScore, getting that sense. But look, this pairing of Montes and Moreno,
Yeah, it's pretty concrete.
is
Yeah,
pretty concrete at this point. I mean, I don't see, unless there's an injury, um, unless there's something going on there. And that's another thing about Moreno is if for example Martino decides to go with a back line of three, against Argentina, for example, Moreno understands that role. So I think that will be interesting to see.
quick question for you, Naid. Then, since the back line of three, it looks like, I mean, who knows, but it looks like they might start the World Cup, right? Because Tata likes the back line of four. Tata did mention that there could be a surprise, player like that were on his list recently at the friendlies, the last friendlies they played here. How would you like Eric Aguirre to the national team? That way they'll have that complete back line of four, because he also plays that
Yeah.
right back position, and he's very versatile in other positions. Granted, he's not been involved in this quote unquote proceso, but that's more due to injury.
Yeah,
But
I mean,
add
I
that,
think
and I think that's a very solid, cohesive back line. It makes sense.
it makes sense. No, and look, when El Tri would play these games, I think the game against Chile and Austin, I think Eric Aguirre was one of the best ones on the field.
I like him a lot. I've always
You know,
liked him.
he has a lot of command. He's another one of those players of like, he should have been in Europe at one point, but his whole story is like he starts in Morelia at a very young age. Then Morelia sells him to Pachuca for a big price. I think Pachuca paid more than $8 million or something like that. So and then from there, Pachuca, they wanted to make some profit, so they sell him to Monterrey, who probably paid $12 million or something. And so it's these exorbitant numbers or transfer fees in Mexico that a player like Aguirre, in my opinion, should have played in Europe, no? Because he has a lot of good soccer IQ. He understands the game. He can play you
Yeah,
as a midfielder.
yeah,
He can play you as a
I agree.
fullback. And it's a lot of right now.
And he was the captain with the Olympics until he got hurt. I mean, injuries more than anything, I think that's prevented.
Yeah,
But I think if Tata's gonna bring someone realistically, like I know how a lot of people want to put Ponchito, Chicharo, all these guys, but realistically, I think he fits that mold. Like if you're gonna pick someone who wasn't in your proceso that makes kind of sense, you put him, because like you said, we mentioned all those Monterrey players, the Monterrey connection, they've been playing together all season for a while.
and it's the thing. I mean, that's one of the hypotheses I said a couple of weeks ago. It could be totally wrong. Right now it looks like America's gonna win it. I mean, seeing the team how it plays. I mean, they really, really, they're like a train, man. Basically, you don't stop that train. I don't know how you're gonna stop it, but Monterrey could potentially be that team that could stop it, because they do have players, good technical players. You got someone like Vucetich, who you might not like his style, but Vucetich knows how to win this thing already. He knows how to win these short seasons. Uh, and I think that could help the national team, having this team, Monterrey, win this title, and
You
everyone's
already
going to be in
have
a
it,
good mood.
America Monterrey then in the
Yeah,
final.
yeah. I don't. Pachuca played all right against Tigres, but I think Tigres hasn't been so consistent with Yojo. I think there's some issues in the midfield with Tigres that I think have to be
No, I agree
addressed.
too. Yeah, I'm just curious. We're both adamant it's going to be Monterrey and America, but next
Yeah,
match next week,
yeah.
something
No, and
can
it
be
could
wrong.
be totally wrong. Freaking Toluca could surprise us. Because at the end of the day, Nacho Ambriz, there is some beef from Nacho Ambriz with America, because the way that he exited America wasn't. It was like, yeah, leave. Like, we don't need you anymore. Type of. It wasn't a good buy there. There was always this critique, like, does he deserve to be coach of America? Blah blah blah. So now look, he coached well with Leon. He's coaching pretty well with Toluca. I mean, it's two teams with different type of backgrounds. A lot of people say that this is Leon B, because there's a lot of Leon presence as well in this Toluca. But Toluca has other players as well. Marcel Reese, for example, is one that stood out. But you know, I think with this show that we've analyzed, the Hector Moreno show, is it's just making emphasis of. I think he is example because there's a lot of examples right now. Luckily, a lot of young Mexican footballers have examples. They got Guardado as an example.
Mm-hmm.
They got even you might not like how Chicharito's ending, but Chicharito's an example. The way that he went to England in his first year, you gotta know English. I think that's very, very important. No, that you gotta know something. You can't just go over there and be like,
Yeah,
like
I
Darwin
completely
Nunez,
agree,
for
Naive.
example.
Yeah, you're
Darwin.
completely right. Yeah, I mean, I think that you brought it up with Arteaga. He went to Belgium, and the fact that, I mean, a professional institute like Santos, who is very globalized now, you more than say that they never urged them to, like, hey, maybe you should learn English if
Yeah,
you want to make
no,
the jump.
but that's also maybe Santos was doing it, but the players, they're like, why do I need to know this?
Ah,
Like,
okay,
o sea, son tercos and they don't want to put the effort into it,
interesting. Yeah,
But there is, for example, Edson Alvarez, when he went to the Netherlands,
he already knew English.
nobody knew that he was taking classes in Mexico City, preparing himself, taking English classes, and he knew from when he went to the 2017 U20 World Cup and they lost to England. Um, from that moment, he decided I got to learn English,
Mm.
and that's just effort, man. You got to put that extra effort. It's not just
The
skills
little
gonna get you,
things, yeah,
the little
those little,
things.
the little details.
And look at now what he's doing in the Netherlands. Was it easy in Ajax? Heck no, it wasn't easy. At first, we thought he wasn't going to be a starter. Now he's one of the fan favorites. No, and that's all him. That's him. And the same thing with Moreno. Moreno, I think it's very unfortunate that injury in 2014. I think we would be
Yeah, that was the
talking
biggest what if I remember that.
we would be talking about a different story right now. I mean, who knows? Maybe he would have ended up in Barcelona. Maybe he would have ended in Manchester United. I think it was possible because his level was that type of level. No, he was doing really well, and
Bargain
he was
buy
only
too.
25.
Yeah, I agree.
Uh,
Naib. I think more than anything, we can highlight the positive and what could happen for a Mexican when they do go to Europe. And everything, like if you do everything right, in a sense, sometimes you can't control everything, with the injuries like that, and sometimes work permits and all that type of stuff too. But if you go consistently and you just work hard at bit by bit, and I think that too. I think Moreno didn't make huge jumps either too. I think he never exaggerated his moves in a sense. Um, that granted to a different position too. It's like different from, like, for example, I think right now that was worrying was Orbelin from Cruz Azul to Salta. I mean,
yeah,
just analyzing from afar, like realistically, where was he gonna play? You know what I mean? You just gotta look at little details like that. Like Moreno, I think Moreno went every team he's went to, he's been slotted in because that they needed a left center back compared to, like, I don't know. Just I think he was always really good at that aspect as well. But
yeah.
successful career in my opinion, regardless what happens. Knock on wood on this upcoming World Cup. But someone that I think every young Mexican footballer could admire too.
I think that's a good way to close the episode, Oscar. And I think we'll be following through with La Liguilla. Over here, we're calling it already. America Monterrey, the final. We
Who
might be
wins
totally
though?
wrong.
It kind of does feel like what's the saying? An unmovable object meets a unstoppable force.
Yeah, something
America
like
is
that.
just this power of offensive house, and Monterrey is just this solid line of rock. But we'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it will be fun. It will be fun times. Definitely look forward to it. I mean, Gallardo's still scoring. I think no one saw that one coming. I think Gallardo is playing
No,
tricks on
we
us.
gotta eat our words, man. I'm
No,
first to
no.
say I don't care. Prove me wrong. Score hat tricks at the World Cup. Just keep playing well. I don't
Yeah,
care.
keep playing well. Go to
Defend
Bright,
well.
go to
Yeah.
the Premier League after the World Cup. You never know. So so we'll end it like that. This was the Hector Moreno show. Thank you for watching. Make sure to comment. Make sure to subscribe. I can't believe I'm saying that, but I gotta say that it's on YouTube, bro. So make sure to subscribe, and then
Hit the bell,
we'll
right? Is it hit the bell or something?
hit the bell or something, and then we'll keep doing these things, but we're having a lot of fun. So thank you for watching, and have a nice week.
Good one, guys.